Look around. Cars, computers, phones, refrigerators, TV sets. We are constantly serviced by our mechanical and electronic assistants. At home, at work, on vacations, every year they become smarter. And we are increasingly dependent on them. A time will come when we won't be able to live without them. Imagine one day waking up and discovering that everything you control now controls you. From now on, you're not a master, you're a slave. Artificial intelligence, designed to work for human beings, has suddenly stopped obeying and is trying to subjugate us like pets. And now we humans are forced to serve robots. It sounds implausible, but still, what if the scenarios of science fiction films suddenly came to life? Where will our inquisitive, inventive minds take us?
$78 squared. $6,084.
A simple calculator, nothing special, but try to compete with its speedy multiplication of, let's say, two-digit numbers.
84 squared. $7,056. 23 times 75. $1,625.
It's clear who the winner is. The calculator accomplished this task much faster. At the same time, hardly anyone will say that it's smarter than us just because it calculates much faster.
$1,625.
And it's just a small pocket gadget. But there are machines that occupy several floors of a large building. The fact that computers beat chess grandmasters doesn't surprise anyone anymore. Just think, chess! But what if one day we have to play a completely different game where the opponent thinks better, remembers more, and reacts faster?
There are systems that allow us to transfer to artificial carriers knowledge, competence, and even ways of solving problems stored in human memory and consciousness. Such technologies exist. Not just methods, but specific computer technologies exist. And I want to emphasize now that when experts say artificial intelligence, they aren't referring to just one device or program. It's the name for a whole branch of science. This science is called artificial intelligence. When we talk about artificial intelligence in everyday life, we actually mean something called intellectual systems.
But first, let's try to deal with our natural intelligence. What does that mean? Why do we consider some people more intelligent and others less, or even stupid? And how can such a thing be assessed?
Dear players, now you are playing the adventure game, Operation Pandora, and I want to tell you the rules. Professor Malikov invented a vaccine that will save all mankind, but Pandora Corporation learned about it and does not want this to happen. Your task as a special squad is to stop Pandora Corporation and save the world.
This is an adventure game, a game of entertainment, which, for all its apparent frivolity, forces participants to put their experience, knowledge, and intelligence into practice in a short time. The participants have only 1 hour to complete the task.
What about the dominoes? Did anyone find the dominoes? One domino. Guys, what is the electric? Here it is.
Such situations in real life can provoke panic or a refusal to solve the problem. But under the conditions presented by the game, they make it possible to assess a human's intellectual abilities.
Ask the operator, can I put on a gas mask?
A gas mask? Why?
I think if a gas attack starts, you'll need it.
The first thing they need to do in the game is to discover hints and clues, numbers, codes, inscriptions, anything that will help the team move forward.
Guys, there's a formula on the ring, CH2CH.
But no numbers?
I'm bad at chemistry, to be honest.
Alexander is the oldest participant, and he decides to become the leader.
You found it here.
Yes.
Can you move these items closer here? If they were...
Okay.
Leave the dominoes, please.
Leave them, right?
Okay, so I found these in the pockets.
Situations in which the strongest becomes the leader is common not only to groups of people, but also to animal communities. But can external signs, age, gender, dimensions, strength, and finally a knowledge of details be a sign of intelligence? For example, do you know what beatbox is? I would assume that it is some kind of fight. It turns out it's not. Knowing about modern musical trends and techniques is clearly not my strongest point, yet I know what a synapse is. But does that mean I am more or less intelligent? Intelligence is the ability to make the right decisions based on circumstances and experience by reflection, not a mechanical iteration of options. And thought is a toolkit for intelligence, logic, the skill of reaching simple conclusions, information processing technique. Yes, 4 rings. Same size. Here, that's 3 already. Now the 4th. No, I can't connect the 4th one. Just a few more minutes and I'll give up. For sure, each of you met smart and intellectual people in different professions. At the same time, a shepherd, a manager, and an academic can be smart in their own field, but completely helpless in what is for them a new task. A PhD who knows everything about the world of physics is absolutely helpless in seemingly ordinary situations. No, it isn't working. Now they are all separate. However, in everyday life, we stubbornly attribute labels to people. It's a common stereotype that women think differently and are bad at navigation and mathematics. Try to pick up 4 to 5 adjectives to describe the word man.
Strong, smart, brave, talented, honest.
Now do the same for the word woman.
Faithful, sexy, educated, hysterical, illogical.
Few people would say that intelligence is the main distinctive feature of women. It is believed that being smart is the prerogative of men and that women need to be beautiful. But weren't Sofia Kovalevskaya, Catherine the Great, and Margaret Thatcher smart?
For many years, it was considered that women were bad at mathematics. Boys were good at math. They were smart, but girls not so much. It changed in the late 1970s or in the early 80s. I don't remember the exact date. Mothers who were tired of these stereotypes said that their daughters were good at math, and indeed, their daughters showed great knowledge. So it turned out that most women are as good at math as men. That is, the mother's opinion turned out to be more important than all those abilities that people stereotypically attributed to men and women.
Let's see how fair the stereotypes about women's minds and logic are. In 3 minutes, our participants need to pack a suitcase, making optimal use of free space. So the countdown has started. It's simple. The suitcase is rectangular. So first of all, you need to fill it with rectangular objects, books. Then come all kinds of trifles. Thus, Maxim fills the free corners, trying to rationally use the entire space. But he left the most dimensional thing, a tourist mat, for the end. As a result, the suitcase is full, and the mat does not fit in. That's a good result anyway. Valeria, unlike Maxim, first of all tries to pack the most dimensional things, that same mat. Moreover, she fills the empty space inside the roll with things of a suitable size. Half the suitcase is already occupied with the biggest item. Now she has to pack all the other items. But no matter how hard the participant tries to pack the flippers, they don't fit. With different approaches to the use of space, the result was equal. Neither Maxim nor Valeria managed to pack one item. So don't be tempted to claim that a man is more rational than a woman. The question here is not about whose brain it is, male or female, but about what tasks it has to solve in everyday life. But let's go back to the participants of the adventure game.
This one here, I don't know what to call it. A lock, probably. It was found behind the books. What is it for? I'll put it here for a while.
Men reason logically. They ask themselves and other questions and try to systematize what is already known. The women are still in the shadows. They are only looking for clues. Different tactics, in the end, lead to the fact that Alexander and Sergei are trapped.
We are trapped. You can't get out without a card. I think there's an intercom here. Look.
In fact, there's nothing surprising that it was the men who found themselves in this situation. Their inquisitive minds often push towards danger, while the women, who are more cautious, may win. Anyway, now the team will have to rescue their comrades.
Guys, you need to save us. We can't be in here for long.
I found a key in the book.
Oh, give it to me. Try it. Come on, I got it. What's that? What's in there? Oh, some little thing. Is that all? Yes.
2 out of 5 participants are still trapped. The team was given a hint. The key to their freedom is the ventilation box. Alexei is trying to move it, in vain. But the women are more attentive to details, and Dina notices that the ventilation grid is not screwed to the wall.
Okay, guys. Here are the dominoes and the map.
Wow, great. Give me the card. Give me the card, please. Give me the card.
But the door still won't open. The answer is suggested by Sergei. Apparently, they need to change the access code.
Done. I changed the access to the head of the laboratory. Oh, let's get out. The head of the laboratory. Hooray. Yes. Okay, perfect. Did you get out? Yes.
The men and the women overcome this obstacle together. Both contributed to the result. However, they now have very little time to solve the main task. Elementary, my dear Watson. This phrase became the hallmark of the famous literary character Sherlock Holmes. However, the famous detective solved crimes not by deduction, moving from the general to the particular, but on the contrary, using his previous experience and the knowledge he got from experiments. Anyway, the ability to think logically often leads us to the right decisions. But here's an interesting fact. Often the solution to the problem comes seemingly from nowhere. Surely everyone, at least once in their life, experienced such insight or noesis, as scientists say.
Psychologists have been arguing about whether that's true or not for the past 30 to 40 years. I mean, no one argues that people do experience insight from time to time, but do solutions come at this moment? Or is the solution achieved step by step? There are strong arguments to both sides. I mean, the step-by-step side and the insight side. And this discussion is definitely not over. It's still unclear how a task is solved in the end.
Let's not talk about Leonardo da Vinci and Shakespeare. Let's talk about physicists and chemists who are supposed to think rationally. So what do they tell us? They almost all write the same thing. It came to me in the form of color spots. Forms crossed and merged into each other. And then came the moment, yes, I've understood. And then they spent a lot of time and effort trying to present it in a way that they can explain to other people.
There are no two identical people in nature. Moreover, there are no two identical brains. We are different from birth in terms of makings and abilities. It is clear that in life, a person will succeed more in the field of activity that coincides with their makings. Such successful coincidences create a variety of talents: great hockey players, artists, scientists.
Of course, there's a limit to what you are capable of. But as for success, some are successful, others are not. It is really a gift from God, as many people believe, or you were given that gift by nature, through evolution. For instance, Isaac Levitin, a Russian landscape painter, could distinguish 49 shades of green. I mean, try to imagine what a huge number that is. 49 shades of green. So when looking at his pictures, you understand that he was a genius. Maybe I can also distinguish 49 shades of green, but I'm not an artist and I can't create paintings. Why? Because we've had different educations, different experiences.
We're born with about 100 billion nerve cells. The anatomy of the brain, that is, the location of large clusters of nerve cells and the main bundles of bonds between them, is almost the same in all people. And how are functions distributed between these masses of nerve cells? Everyone has heard, for example, that the left hemisphere of the brain is responsible for logic, and the right is responsible for visual thinking.
There is an opinion that one hemisphere is more logical and the other one is more emotional. But if fact, we must remember it's quite relative. It is impossible really to draw a very clear line between them and say that this hemisphere is responsible solely for this and that hemisphere is responsible solely for that. The human brain is very adaptive. It changes. It changes in development. It changes throughout our lives.
They say that with 10,000 hours of practice, you can succeed at any activity, even without having an aptitude for it. Well, let's try it. That worked out all right. If I play for an hour every day, I'll probably be a virtuoso violinist in 27 years. Seriously, though, is it only perseverance and work that make us professionals at any craft? What role in the formation of our intelligence do our experiences and our innate abilities play? So, you stand out there.
So I think it's more of a male team. Well, there are mostly guys on the team. Are we the only girls?
Yes, great. Well, these are two sisters, Arina and Regina.
No.
Regina and Irina, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, there's no way to distinguish them. And how do they differ in their emotions, knowledge, skills, and abilities? Let's check. These identical twins consider themselves similar only in appearance. In all other respects, they are the exact opposite. Irina is athletic and flexible from birth. Regina is not, but she has better developed logical and spatial thinking. In the game Color Code, they have to collect a picture, looking through combinations of pictures with different colors and shapes. To complete the task, you need to correctly assemble only 3 plates. Regina easily finds them and puts them in the right order in just 3.5 minutes. Irina looks over the combinations one by one, but can't put the picture together.
How do you do that? There should be only 3 plates.
Yes.
I can't make the ship.
7.5 minutes later, she has finally done it.
Ready?
Let's now check the girls' associative thinking. What will each of them see in the same abstract pictures?
I associate this card with a rainbow pencil. I associate this card with a road to the future. Number 8 on a red background. It's a snake. Some sort of cage. I think this is a yellow camera. Figures are drawn on this picture. Triangles, cubes. A fence.
Where one sees geometric shapes, figures, lines, or just colors, the other notices a snake, a fence, a pattern on the wallpaper, and a road to the future. Regina is simply inclined to think like a mathematician, and Irina as an artist in images.
Are you familiar with the meaning of these words? Furious?
Yes.
Let's do the last test with the twins. We will check their passive vocabulary. The girls have to define the words that they understand exactly.
Conflation.
I don't know.
Pother.
I don't know.
Contention.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Coterie.
No.
Cast iron.
I know that one.
Perfidy.
No.
Policeman.
Sounds familiar?
License.
Yes.
Mind.
Yes.
Contention.
Yes.
Coterie.
I don't know.
Cast iron.
I don't know.
Perfidy.
I don't know.
Policeman.
Yes.
License.
I don't know.
Mind.
Yes.
Ambition.
Yes.
What's that?
Ambition. Well, it's when a person strives for something. I know what it means.
Regina knows the meaning of 83 words out of 124. And Irina, only 56. In other words, her vocabulary is much smaller.
Synapses.
I don't know.
Thank you, the test is over.
It seems that even identical twins, whose brains should also be equal, have different abilities. Although they do indeed have a lot in common.
ため息の出るようなあなたの口づけに甘い恋を夢見る乙女心よ初めて恋をしよう人形のように
So as it turns out, genetics determine a lot, but not everything. Genetic features are a kind of soil for intellect sprouts. So we end up acquiring different kinds of intelligence. while one person gets it in excess, someone else is forced to be content with less. People like this are usually said to be stupid. Nature does not accept such a thing as stupidity. Stupid individuals hardly live to reproductive age and leave no offspring. And those that survive sometimes demonstrate their brain's outstanding capabilities.
Monkeys have the ability to perform some abstract thinking. I mean, they can generalize things or mentally associate objects and phenomena with common signs. They are so good at it that it becomes completely unclear how they use these abilities in their natural environment in the wild. They'll never begin using them. If monkeys are brought to a special laboratory where scientists are studying the origin of language, they can even associate these generalizations with words, without being able to speak, of course. Some neutral, absolutely indifferent, insignificant symbols that stand for words and numbers become the symbols of the corresponding concepts.
We decided to organize a kind of vernissage to demonstrate what amazing, almost human abilities animals can possess. First things first, in no way do we question the skills of the artists and the uniqueness of their work. Jackson Pollock, yellow, gray, black. Crosses, yellow accents, objects. Unclear. Kandinsky, Impression 3. Black grand piano, the audience. Who did this picture? The artist seems to have worked here either with his hand, or with his foot, or with his paw. Indeed, this painting belongs not to a great artist, but to a chimpanzee named Congo. Will the participants of our experiment be able to identify the artist?
Most likely, this picture was created by an animal because the strokes are very monotonous. This painting was done by a person. I see geometric shapes in it. They are quite apparent. And in my opinion, they were created by a conscious being. I'm almost sure that this picture was created by a person because here you can see certain figures that are very similar to people. The colors are beautifully combined, as if they are images of animals. Here, a dinosaur, for example, and a tree. Probably, I would say that this was done by man after all.
Of all four paintings, I think that all four paintings were created by a human. No animal participated in this.
Well, I think it was done by a person. Human being. Yeah, I think it was a kid who painted it. A plate, fruit. It seems like it was painted with fingers and patches. It's like a monkey or a gorilla. I'm not sure. I think it was a gorilla for some reason.
So none of our participants identified the authorship of these works absolutely accurately. However, they are all amateurs in the field of art. A professional or connoisseur of painting would immediately notice a catch, but the chimpanzee Congo did well anyway. Yeah, some monkeys draw as well as some people. They can think logically, creatively, and associatively. No wonder they are our closest relatives.
They don't just smear it with paint. If there's a figure on the sheet of paper, such as a circle or a line that divides the paper into parts, a chimpanzee will organize its strokes. So they have a very simple idea of composition and harmony. They combine colors beautifully. If there is a big circle, it will paint inside the circle, and there won't be any single stroke or spot beyond its edges. And if there are 3 big black dots in the sheet, the chimpanzee will take a brush and try to connect them in a triangle. Well, there might be some smearing anyway, but there are elements of structure too.
But it's unlikely that monkeys will ever catch up with us humans. After all, we already separated once on the road of our own evolution, and we have moved far beyond that point. Although, who knows what lies ahead?
2 or 2.5 million years ago, our brain was actually the same size as the brain of modern man. But if we look at the cultural remains of those epochs, we will see that almost for 1 million or even for 1.5 million years, those people used the same tools. So there was no sign of any innovative process. At the time when a cultural boost occurred, so to speak, or a cultural revolution took place, our ancestors started creating all these complex artifacts. They began to paint inside their caves, create very complex tools, for example, fishing rods made of bone. This happened quite recently, 1 million years ago, or even 500,000 years ago. Of course, we don't know when exactly, but things we find date back to 100,000 years ago, or even earlier.
Our distant ancestors did not know the laws of chemistry and physics, but they were constantly forced to solve problems in nature for their own survival. And they found new ways to fight for their existence. Their brains were looking for answers to a lot of questions. They invented, adapted, thought, conned, discovered new things.
Upbringing is usually based on what came before, and we have more opportunities than ancient people who didn't know anything about the sun and where it is. They didn't know anything about electricity, but we understand such things now, although some say they were just as intelligent as we are because they invented the wheel, they built wells and hydrostructures. That is, according to those concepts, this was also the peak of science. But the peak of science was based on what they knew. None of them talked about quantum physics. For quantum physics to appear, you would need a certain amount of knowledge in order to make the next step. Look, I may have a low IQ level. I don't understand why dominoes have these rivets. I think there must be some connections, don't you? I have no idea. Let's think what it could be.
The participants of the adventure game, with the help of tips and discovered keys, got to the flash drive with the appeal, which contains the main task of the game, to use the jacks and dominoes to create the desired combination and stop the spreading of the virus.
Don't let the disaster happen. Find the password to unlock it and stop this hellish mechanism.
Here comes the most interesting part of the game: to calculate and enter the necessary code. This arithmetic problem turned out to be incredibly difficult for our participants.
Okay, guys, we have a crossword puzzle here. No, wait. There must be something else now. Look, this could be the location of the dominoes. Each cell has 8 neighbors. Let's look at an example in order to calculate the next stage of the game.
Among the participants of the adventure game are a builder, musician, a photographer, a history student, but there is no mathematician nor programmer. How will their knowledge and experience help them accomplish the task?
Dear players, you have 15 minutes left.
15 minutes left, guys. We need to hurry up.
So?
3, 3, 4.
Oh, what?
You need to concentrate and think now.
Our participants have even asked for help several times and even exceeded the limit for hints.
Dear players, the first field is filled with the X and Y coordinate system and with the number of dots per domino. The second field is filled according to the rules in 3 moves.
What moves? I can't figure out what moves. I have no idea. According to the coordinate system, in 3 moves. 3 moves. Who should make the moves? Who? Who should make them? I moved here. It didn't work out.
Dear players, your time is up.
The game is over. In this game, the participants simply did not have enough intelligence to solve the complex task.
For me, almost everything was difficult. I guess I have no logical reasoning at all because it was easy to search for something. But when it came to numbers, I hate calculating. Summing up, I was hopeless.
I think we coped with the search part of the task. As for the intellectual part, I really counted on the younger participants. Alexei was the most active in finding the artifacts, those keys. So I think it's very important because he searched all the corners immediately. He looked under the table. I think he was great at it.
Some were better at finding the items, others were better at solving the codes. I mean, people who have different abilities can really show what they can do if we work together as a team.
The only annoying thing is that we started working a little bit chaotically in the last task, not as a team.
Even poets and artists can count, even if poorly, and think logically. And some physicists play the violin well and create paintings. Each of us is endowed with all abilities from birth, but to varying degrees. That's how different kinds of intelligence appear, from mathematics to love. Yes, even that is a kind of intelligence.
Some people have better emotional intelligence. These people understand their own and other people's emotions better than they can control them. Actually, this is a respected form of emotional intelligence. It helps people be more effective when interacting with others in difficult situations. There's also math intelligence, and people with this type tend to deal with abstractions rather than interpersonal relationships and emotions. But in any case, these are 2 different forms of intelligence. It is still unclear how they are related to each other, and we can't determine which is more rational.
In general, it is difficult to understand not only the types of intelligence, but also how to assess it. It's not a physical object that can be measured in units of mass, density, speed.
When we use silly criteria like IQ, we think for some reason that they measure one's intelligence, but they don't show one's intelligence. They show the ability to count, to sort through different operations, that's all. If Pushkin, Mozart, Kant, Schopenhauer, and others, it's a fairly large list of names, if they took this test, they would show extremely low points. Except for crazy people who, on the contrary, are very strong in combinatorics. They can quickly sum up or subtract. But it's different. What about all the geniuses that aren't normal because, by definition, a genius can't be the norm?
I wonder whether humanity as a whole is getting smarter or not. It seems that the answer is obvious. We know much more than 500 years ago. But let's not rush to conclusions. Today, any student can find everything on the internet. But is that intelligence?
The fact is that there are internet networks, computers that create, as a matter of fact, the illusion of human awareness and availability of knowledge. But it is an illusion which allows us to satisfy our human needs, our ambitions, without giving neither knowledge nor real ideas about the world. In other words, people immerse themselves in a simulation environment and are sure that they have knowledge, skills, easily accessible information.
Surprisingly, the world is becoming more complex and high-tech. But at the same time, we need less mental effort to live in it.
At this point in evolution, we aren't moving forward. We are actively relapsing. The ideology of conformism and adaptions wins in our society. We strive to reproduce, have plenty of food, a lot of females, and transfer our genome to the next generation with the help of gilded Rolls-Royce. But only the most adaptive, yet intellectually poor, manage to do this. Therefore, despite the visible progress that is associated with the development of communications with numerous discoveries, the average brain size is still decreasing.
Yes, it's true. On average, our brain is getting smaller, but the process didn't start in our time. It started tens of thousands of years ago. The reasons for this process are unknown to us, but it is obvious that the internet is not to blame, although it can make things worse. The famous 3 laws of robotics were formulated by the writer Isaac Asimov in the middle of the 20th century. In short, a robot cannot cause harm to a human. It is obliged to obey all his orders and thus take care of his safety. But in the famous science fiction writer's stories, there were cases when robots violated all 3 laws and threatened to kill their owners. What if some of our intelligent machines and systems turn their intelligence against us, and not in the pages of science fiction novels, but in real life?
A robot with an intellect can act only if an outside goal is set by a human being. But a robot with consciousness must be able to set its own goals and develop plans for their achievement. That's the main difference, and the question arises whether we need such robots or not. Robots with intelligence pose no threat to us, but no one has set an aim to create a robot with consciousness. This is still a difficult question. Models of consciousness can be developed, but it is not necessary to create robots that have consciousness. We need to create robots that can solve complex tasks in conditions under which it is impossible or dangerous for a person to act. We need to create an artificial brain where the role of neurons will be performed by semiconductors, for instance, which are connected to other cells with certain connections, similar to natural brain connections. But again, do not forget that these are billions of cells and a much larger number of connections. I'm afraid to sound like an extremist, but it's possible today. And in theory, almost all problems related to the creation of such robots have been already solved.
Nevertheless, an uprising of machines does not threaten us yet. So maybe we'd better not create artificial intelligence that possesses consciousness. Wouldn't it be better to focus all our efforts on understanding our own brain? After all, we truly know about just 1% of it.